You would take them on a walk.
All right, everyone. Welcome to our Positively Balanced conversation. So we're going to be talking about identity as a mom, finding your flow. I am Cassandra McCoy, founder of Positively Balanced, and joining me is Jessica and Kelly. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
So finding your identity and finding like that flow as a mom can always be interesting. I'm curious about your guys' experience because one of you has one, Kelly, you have two. I'm curious about the difference maybe whenever you had your first baby and it's like, okay, we're doing this. I'm a mom now, officially. It's on the outside. I'm just curious what you guys, your thoughts.
So my first thought whenever you say that is that whenever new parents have their first baby, and that identity does change, that not only is there a change within themselves and a lot of like all the raw strength and emotion and all of those things that they're like dealing with immediately, also their surrounding community has to accept that change, and the new parents have to exert new boundaries that maybe they didn't feel ready to make some of those harsh boundaries, and maybe other people don't want to accept them, and see that new identity and see even themselves differently, because now other people have a new paradigm about yourself that they have to reconcile with, and that can affect them, especially if they're relatives and now they're an aunt and uncle or grandparents or what have you, that affects beyond just the immediate parents.
That's a good point. I think about that. I like that.
Yeah.
How about you, Jessica? What's the first thing that comes to mind, or first thing that you kind of experienced finding your identity as a new mom?
Well, at first, like the first 6 months were kind of a breeze for me, just because it really came naturally to me to have a new baby and to have, you know, this tiny life that I'm taking care of. And it was so much fun, and it was so different and so exhilarating, and it was super fun for me. The challenge has come just in the last 2 months, the last month even. He just turned 8 months old, and 8 months is like, this milestone is probably the most challenging that I've experienced so far, obviously. But like the teething and the learning to baby plank and crawling and, you know, like trying hardest not to compare to my other mama friends and their kiddos. You know, that has been the most challenging in this season. And so my identity now, I feel like I'm so in tune to him all day long, and I'm trying to create this perfect little tiny human, and it's exhausting. And even Darren and I were talking just the other day, and he's like, you really need to do something for yourself. And that's one thing that I had let slip a lot, is not doing something for myself. So I now have a gym with childcare.
That's awesome. And I love how he said that. And I love that your point you were talking about, you know, in this season, your identity has changed, right? Like the challenges that you're facing, and it'll continue to change, right? For every single one of us, I think. I think of whenever, you know, finding your identity as a mom can be different for each of us. Because Jessica, you said, you know, it clicked. It was like, it was natural. I felt great. I've had a little bit of the, I didn't feel like a mom at first, just because I was in school, and then I went straight from, you know, full-time grad school to full-time work. And I had like, almost like that imposter syndrome of, yes, I do know that this baby came from my vagina, and I have breastfed it for 7 months, and, you know, it was a beautiful journey. But there for a little bit, I was like, okay, I am that working mom, so maybe that was my identity. But it wasn't one that like sat well with me. And so whenever I hear like identity as a mom, I always think about, you know, the identity that we kind of find ourselves in, and maybe the identity that we kind of wish that we had, or maybe that we see in other moms. Because I liked something that you said, Jessica, about comparing your little one to other kids. I think that as moms and trying to find our flow, we almost compare ourselves to other moms. And I think it's almost unfair to us because we do that, but
I think you're so right.
Yeah. Yes,
what do you,
because we, every baby is so different. Every human is so different. Every mom is so different. The way that I parent is not going to be the same way that Keli parents. Is not going to be the same way that Cassie parents. It's not going to be the same way that even, other people parent, because we were all raised so differently. But it's still it's that age that we live in. It's that comparison age, that immersion in everyone else's lives. We can't help but kind of say like, oh, well, he's not there yet. How come he's not there yet? And then you have to think, wait a second, this is not that. So, yeah.
You mean you guys aren't Instagram moms that are like perfect children, perfect thing, has it all together? Oh my goodness.
No. So mine are almost 20 months apart. They're like 2 days away from being 20 months apart. And having this, my second, has been so reaffirming, and seeing that she's doing the same thing as my oldest. And I'm like, okay, I'm not just like terrible at this. And look, my older is like becoming older, and she's 3, so like more mature, but as a 3-year-old, I'm like, she's not, yeah. So yeah, it's okay.
I like that too. I'm about to have my second. So I like how you said that, because and I'm curious, because Keli, maybe you can answer this. Finding your identity as a first-time mom and finding your flow as a first-time mom. And then you're a mom of multiples, right? So Jessica, I know you want another child. We've had conversations. I'm now pregnant. Keli, bestow some wisdom on us. Does your identity kind of change the multiples?
Yeah, I don't know. I did the same thing that I did the first time, except this time I'm home. So the first time I was working, I went from never having a full-time job. I was always part-time, and I went full-time when my daughter I was home for 9 weeks, so she was 10 weeks old when I went back. And I went back in a full-time position that I'd never had before, and that was really challenging. So I did all of that, and then whenever I left that job, and I was pregnant, and it was just a couple of months before my youngest was born, like, I'm really glad that I left and had some time pregnant left with her before I had my youngest, because I wasn't feeling like I had my flow with my oldest, and it was just like always everything felt like a struggle. And then being home and being able to just be with her all of the time, I feel like we got more in tune with one another. I don't know, something started to click better. And then by the time my youngest was like, I don't know, 6 months old, just felt more mom-like, I guess. I don't know, it was just really, really good, and I feel like it was really important.
I could relate with that, and I like how you made that point. It's like you find your flow, and even you had that time with your firstborn before the secondborn, so you kind of had that flow, and you found that, and then you added the second baby, and you guys were able to kind of use that first 6 months. I love that.
Yeah, and that season was like everything was this, just all the different things happening to make just, when you have a newborn, life's kind of on hold, and then you have a 3-month-old, and life's kind of still on hold, and you have a 1-year-old and a newborn, and it's just a mess, and nothing is the same as it will be in 2 years whenever they're older and you can go do these other things. So you're like, if you have an idea of the mom that you want to be, but you're with a newborn and a toddler, and you're like, I can't keep my house clean. How is my kid ever going to be like a decent person, and all of this other stuff? And then like a year down the road, you're like, oh, they're going to bed and they're sleeping all night, and this is great. And it's just the season that you're in. So I think, the flow and the season and all of those things change.
It does change, especially like right now at 8 months. My flow is everybody, like the baby's in bed by 7 at the latest, husband's in bed by like 7:38 at the latest, and then from like 8 to 10 is my time, and I watch my show, or I do the dishes, or I finish cleaning up something around the house. And then like during the day, my flow is kind of worked into 2.5-hour blocks around baby's naps. And that has been an adjustment too, because he went from taking 4 naps to now 3 naps. And then I hear that, you know, in the coming weeks, he's going to drop the 3rd nap. And I'm like, no, it's going to change again. I'm just getting used to this where I'm at. So it's just the flow is evolving, and it's good because I'm a person that likes change, but I don't like it this often.
No, and I love that because we're finding our flow, and to kind of pull things all together to wrap it up, you know, identity as a mom and finding your flow. I liked how you said that it evolves. It evolves. It's never going to be stagnant. I think about, I have a friend who has teenagers, right? And I'm thinking that far to the future, and my mind like explodes, right? Like, because she has just a completely different life than I do right now. And before we blink, we'll be there too. But our identity right now, we're finding it. It evolves a little bit. We maybe get back into that flow. It evolves a little bit. Then we get back into that flow. So it's just a nice little cycle that can be very frustrating. But I think it's one thing that each mom can appreciate, that, you know, it's a constant ebb and flow, and you kind of find your identity, and then you maybe lose it a little bit, and then it comes back again. And I don't think that we give ourselves enough credit for appreciating that flow and for appreciating that evolution that kind of happens. So thank you guys for joining me. Any final thoughts to leave our audience with?
I'll be excited to revisit this topic again once you have your second one.
Oh, me too. Man, that's, yeah, me too. It'll be really, really good. But thank you guys for joining me, and I will sign off.
Bye, Cassie.
Bye, ladies.
Okay.